The candles on the small cake flickered in the dim light of the restaurant, their reflection trembling against the glass of untouched red wine. At a corner table sat Nora Collins, her phone glowing in her palm. She checked the screen for the 11th time in 30 minutes. Still nothing. Her fingernail tapped softly against the glass, a small rhythm that matched the ache in her chest. "Should we wait a bit longer for your guests, ma'am?" asked the waiter, a kind-faced man with silver at his temples. His eyes darted toward the 4 empty chairs around her table. Nora managed a thin smile. "Just 15 more minutes, please." It was the 3rd time she'd said that. They both knew what it meant. She smoothed the front of her emerald silk blouse, the one she'd bought especially for tonight. The fabric was cool beneath her fingertips, whispering against her skin like regret. Around her, laughter and conversation filled the air. Silverware clinking, wine glasses toasting, a cork popping somewhere nearby. Everyone seemed to be celebrating something. Everyone but her. 2 weeks earlier, she'd made a reservation at Ellison's, Denver's newest fine dining spot. She just secured $1.2 million in investment for her natural skincare startup, Eden Essence. 3 years of sleepless nights had finally paid off. "Family dinner to celebrate my birthday and big news," she texted. No one replied. Days passed and still no response. She'd sent a reminder. "Just confirming dinner this Thursday at Ellison's." Silence. A final message followed. "Table reserved for 7 p.m. Hope to see everyone there." Not even her mother, father, or younger brother, Eli, replied. Nora sighed, swirling the ice in her water glass. The sound was louder than she expected. It wasn't new. Her family had always been present in name, absent in spirit. When she was 16, her father had taken Eli fishing in Montana for 2 weeks. When she'd asked why she wasn't invited, he'd smiled and said, "He's a boy, Nora. He needs investment. You just need stability." That stability had turned into co-signing Eli's $18,000 motorcycle loan years later, while she was still paying her student debt. When he missed payments, she covered them. Her father's thanks had been distracted. His focus on Eli's shiny new bike instead of his daughter's sacrifice. Now she sat under the soft restaurant lights, 32 years old, successful, and still invisible to the people who should have seen her first. She reached for her glass again when a voice interrupted gently. "Excuse me, miss. I don't mean to intrude." Nora looked up. A tall man with salt and pepper hair stood beside her table, holding a leather portfolio. His kind eyes met hers through dark-framed glasses. "I couldn't help noticing, it might be your birthday," he asked, nodding toward the small cake with its unlit candles. "It is," she said, unsure whether to smile. "Then may I at least wish you a happy birthday?" Something about his calm confidence eased the tension in her chest. "Thank you," she replied quietly. He hesitated. "Would you mind if I joined you? Just until your guests arrive." Nora studied him. There was no pity in his eyes, only gentle sincerity. She nodded. "Sure. Why not?" He sat down and offered his hand. "Marcus Hale. I'm a writer, mostly books about resilience. But I suspect you already know a thing or two about that." She raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" "The way you're sitting," he said softly. "Like someone who's been disappointed but never broken." She laughed, surprised by how much truth sat in that sentence. "Are you always this perceptive with strangers?" "Occupational hazard," he replied with a grin. Marcus gestured to the waiter, who approached with a lighter. "May I?" At Nora's nod, the waiter lit the candles, their glow soft and steady. "So," Marcus said, leaning forward slightly, "what brought you here tonight, all dressed up and waiting so patiently?" Nora hesitated, then decided honesty was easier than invention. "I just closed a major investment for my company. Thought my family might want to celebrate." "Ah," he murmured. "And they're running late." Her lips pressed together. "They're not coming." Marcus's expression softened. "Then they're missing something extraordinary." "Extraordinary?" she asked, half smiling. You, he said simply. Tell me about your company, the one smart enough to earn you that celebration. For the first time that evening, Nora's smile felt genuine. It's called Eden Essence. Natural skincare made with ingredients from small sustainable farms. She showed him photos on her phone, the minimalist logo, the glowing reviews, the new production space. Marcus nodded slowly. Impressive. You built all this yourself. With a lot of sleepless nights and too much caffeine. Well, he said warmly, someone should be celebrating your brilliance tonight. Nora felt her chest loosen as she blew out the candles. I just made a different wish than I planned. And what's that? To stop waiting for my family's approval. Marcus smiled knowingly. The hardest lesson of all. Some people can't give what they don't have. The waiter brought 2 plates. They shared the cake as Nora told him stories. About Eli's endless requests for money, about her parents' excuses, about success that never seemed to earn her belonging. By the time they finished dessert, the restaurant had thinned out, leaving quiet music and soft light. Nora realized she hadn't thought about her phone in over an hour. You know, Marcus said, setting down his fork, sometimes strangers see us clearer than those who raised us. She met his gaze, a smile tugging at her lips. Maybe tonight was the universe's way of reminding me that I'm worth showing up for, even if they didn't. Marcus lifted his glass. To that realization, he said. Their glasses touched. For the first time in years, Nora felt seen. Morning sunlight streamed through Nora's apartment windows, scattering gold across the hardwood floor. The faint aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. 3 years had passed since that birthday dinner at Ellison's. The night a stranger had turned into a friend, and a friend had become something far more. Nora scrolled through her phone, pausing at an article headline. Eden Essence now valued at $35 million. Her photo accompanied the feature. Calm, confident, unbothered. The woman in that picture was nothing like the one who once begged her family for acknowledgement. Her phone buzzed again. This time, the caller ID made her stomach tighten. Mom, she almost ignored it but sighed and answered. Hi, Mom. Oh, sweetheart. Her mother's voice gushed, sugar and false warmth. Did you see my messages? No, I've been busy, Nora said flatly. Well, I have the most wonderful news. Eli's getting married. Can you believe it? Our boy finally settling down. We'd love your help planning the wedding. Nora took a slow sip of her coffee. That's great news. When's the wedding? June, her mother replied, excitement bubbling. And we were thinking, maybe we could do a family collaboration. Collins Beauty. Your brand with our family name. It has such a nice ring to it, don't you think? Nora blinked. A collaboration. Yes, darling. We've always supported you, haven't we? Her mother said smoothly, the words coated in self-praise. Nora's gaze drifted to the framed Forbes magazine on her coffee table, the headline bold beneath her face. How Eden Essence redefined natural luxury. I'll have to think about it, she replied, voice calm but firm. Of course, sweetheart. Call me back this afternoon, her mother chirped. The call ended, but another message immediately popped up. It was from Eli. Hey sis, big news. My racing team needs a sponsor. $300K for the season. Great exposure for your brand. Me know. Nora stared at the screen in disbelief. She set her phone down and exhaled sharply. The city outside her window looked suddenly colder. Later that morning she sat in her office, the walls lined with awards and product samples. Her assistant brought in reports, but Nora barely noticed. She opened an old folder on her laptop labeled Family Finances. Line by line, she recorded everything she'd ever covered for them. Eli's loans, rent, car repairs, their vacation bills she'd help with. By the time she finished, the total stood at $47,000. This isn't punishment, she whispered to herself. It's clarity. Her CFO, Martin, knocked on the door, holding quarterly reports. Everything okay? He asked, noticing her expression. Family matters, Nora said, forcing a faint smile. If my brother or parents reach out about sponsorships or partnerships, direct them to me personally. Martin nodded. Legally, you're under no obligation to mix business with family. I know, she replied softly. I'm just making sure that line stays bright. As he left, Nora's phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Marcus. Just saw your interview. Brilliant as always. Remember, who you became was despite them, not because of them. That evening, a courier arrived with a small envelope addressed in Marcus's handwriting. Inside was a card bearing one simple quote. Boundaries aren't walls. They're the foundation of healthy love. Nora traced the words with her thumb, the meaning sinking deep. She opened her laptop again and began typing an email to her mother. Her tone was polite, her words measured. If we're going to collaborate, let's start from zero, with transparency. She attached the spreadsheet of every dollar she'd spent helping the family. Before she could second-guess herself, she clicked send. The reply came within minutes. How dare you talk like that? Didn't we raise you to be grateful? After everything we've done for you. Nora inhaled slowly, steadying herself before typing a response. I was grateful, in silence, in sacrifice, in tears. But now I'm grateful to myself for finally stopping. When Marcus arrived for dinner later that night, he found her standing on the balcony, staring at the lights of downtown Boulder. They want to use me, she murmured, not celebrate me. He joined her quietly, his presence grounding her. Then stop mistaking obligation for love, he said gently. You don't owe them access just because they share your name. A week later, Nora's receptionist buzzed her during a staff meeting. Your mother and brother are here. They say it's urgent. Nora froze for a beat. Her marketing team looked at her curiously. Tell them I'm in a meeting, she said evenly. They insist on waiting. They brought cake. Her lips curved in a humorless smile. Of course they did. After excusing herself, Nora stepped into the reception area. Her mother stood proudly with a bakery box, Eli beside her in expensive jeans and a designer jacket. Surprise, her mother trilled. We thought we'd celebrate your Forbes feature. Nora smiled tightly. How thoughtful. Let's talk somewhere private, she said, leading them to a conference room. Her mother's eyes roamed the modern office. Exposed brick, glass walls, sleek workstations. Each glance a silent tally of success she hadn't expected Nora to achieve. Eli whistled low. You must be making a fortune from these little bottles. The comment made Nora's jaw clench. We're doing well, she said simply. Once the door closed, she faced them squarely. Why are you really here? Her mother sighed dramatically. Can't we visit without an agenda? You've never tried before, Nora said calmly. Eli leaned back in his chair. You've changed, sis. Success made you cold. Nora met his eyes. No, I just stopped pretending. Her mother crossed her arms. After all, we sacrificed so much for you. Nora tilted her head. What exactly did you sacrifice? When I needed a co-signer for my first business loan, you said it was too risky. When I invited you to dinner to celebrate, you didn't show up. And now you show up with cake because Forbes did. Her mother's smile faltered. Family should mean love without conditions, Nora said softly. Support without a price tag. The silence that followed was heavier than any accusation. Her mother stood abruptly, straightening her blazer. You sound so ungrateful, Nora. We only wanted to celebrate you. Nora exhaled slowly. You wanted to claim me. There's a difference. Eli frowned. Come on, we're family. That means something. Yes, she said quietly. It should mean showing up when someone's struggling, not just when she's successful. Her mother's expression hardened. You've become arrogant. No, Mom, Nora said gently. I've become aware. Her words hung in the air, steady, calm, and final. By the time they left, the tension in Nora's shoulders felt like stone. Through the glass wall, she watched her family cross the reception area. Her mother's posture stiff with indignation, Eli's expression clouded with frustration. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. Heard they showed up uninvited. Coffee later. Proud of you for standing tall. Nora smiled faintly. She didn't feel angry, just tired. The exhaustion that comes after finally stopping the same old emotional marathon. Her marketing director peeked in. Everything okay? Nora nodded. It will be. That evening, Nora stood by her condo window, glass of Cabernet in hand, the city lights glittering below. Her reflection looked stronger now, someone who didn't flinch when confronted by the past. Her phone buzzed again. It was her mentor, Diane Hartwell, calling. I heard what happened, Diane said. How are you holding up? Better than I thought, Nora replied. Good. Remember, boundaries are your proof of growth. Not everyone deserves access to the healed version of you. Nora smiled. You always know what to say. That's what mentors are for, Diane said warmly. Now go rest, warrior. 2 nights later, Nora's brother posted a status on Facebook. Some people only care about money, not family. Dozens of mutual friends tagged her name in the comments. Within hours, her inbox flooded with messages. Rachel, her oldest friend, called. You okay? I'm fine, Nora said, though her heart thudded faster. He's spinning the story, Rachel warned. Your mom's already talking to people at church, painting herself as the victim. Nora's hand tightened around her phone. Of course she is. So what are you going to do? Tell the truth, Nora whispered. At dawn the next morning, she sat at her laptop, coffee steaming beside her. She typed carefully. Family isn't a debt. It's a place where love should be unconditional. I hope everyone finds that kind of peace, including me. Her thumb hovered over post. Then she pressed it. Within minutes, messages poured in. Former classmates, investors, colleagues. All offering support. Stay strong. So proud of you. This hit home for the first time. Nora realized how powerful honesty could be when spoken without anger. Later that morning, Rachel called again. Your post's going viral, she said. Everyone's sharing it. Nora laughed softly. Guess truth travels fast. Rachel hesitated. Your dad's calling people from his business group. Trying to do damage control. Says they've always supported you. 22 investors supported me before my parents ever did, Nora said flatly. Exactly. Just wanted you to know. Thanks, Rach. I appreciate it. When the call ended, Nora leaned back in her chair, the morning light spilling across her desk. She felt something she hadn't in years, peace. At her office, her assistant Emma handed her a coffee. 3 missed calls from your brother, she said. Should I keep blocking? Yes, Nora replied. And thank you. Emma nodded. Oh, and a Mr. Harrington from Keystone Capital called. Said your brother reached out about company stability. Nora froze mid-step. He what? Apparently, Eli told him there were family issues affecting Eden Essence. Anger flared briefly, but Nora's voice stayed even. Call Mr. Harrington. Schedule lunch today. I'll handle it personally. Emma smiled faintly. I figured you'd say that. A few hours later, Nora sat at Ellison's again. Same restaurant, different chapter. Across from her, James Harrington, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, folded his hands. Your brother contacted me, he said. Claimed family tension might impact business decisions. I thought I'd hear your side. I appreciate that, Nora said calmly. My family and my company are separate entities. Always have been. James nodded. That's what I thought. The numbers speak for themselves. 28% quarterly growth. Those results don't lie. He smiled approvingly. You're doing exceptional work, Nora. She exhaled, relieved. Thank you. That evening, she sat on her balcony, laptop open. On the screen was the launch page for her newest project. The Eden Foundation, a mentorship and grant program for young women entrepreneurs. She clicked launch and watched the confirmation banner appear. Moments later, another notification popped up. Donation processed. $20,000 to Colorado Motorcycle Safety Initiative. No post, no credit, no press release. Just quiet action. Her phone buzzed again. Dad. The message read, "Your mother is devastated. This public embarrassment is beneath you." Nora set the phone aside and smiled faintly. Peace never needed permission. At 7 that night, Marcus arrived with takeout. "I thought you might not want to go out," he said. "You know me too well," Nora replied, letting him in. Over dinner, she told him about Eli's attempt to sabotage her reputation. "He contacted your investors?" Marcus asked, frowning. "Apparently, yes." He shook his head. "That crosses every line." "They didn't buy it," she said with quiet pride. "Turns out consistency speaks louder than desperation." Marcus raised his glass. "To clarity over chaos." Nora smiled. "To finally learning the difference." As the night deepened, Marcus refilled their wine glasses. "Did you see the comments on social media?" he asked. Nora frowned. "I stopped reading after the third tag." "Well," he said, handing her his phone, "your brother's sponsor just posted that she's reconsidering her partnership with him after recent revelations about character." Nora blinked in surprise. "I didn't ask for that." "You didn't need to," Marcus replied. "Truth doesn't need help finding the light." Nora leaned back in her chair, half amused, half exhausted. "Funny how silence speaks louder than shouting." "That's growth," Marcus said softly. "Not everyone reaches that stage." Days passed, but the tension in her family didn't fade. It simply shifted. Her mother began leaving long, guilt-laced voicemails. "Sweetheart, you know we're still your parents. Some bonds can't be broken," the messages began, each ending with dramatic sighs. Then came the invitation, a thick ivory envelope embossed with gold letters. "Eli Collins and Jessica Moore request the honor of your presence." Inside, a note in her mother's looping handwriting read, "Time for family healing. We miss you." Nora stared at it for a long moment, then placed it neatly on the counter beside her coffee mug. "Healing," she murmured, "or convenience?" When Marcus arrived that afternoon carrying a paper bag from her favorite bakery, she lifted the invitation toward him. "Another olive branch?" he asked. "More like a fishing line," she said dryly. "They reel me in every few months." He set 2 coffees on the table and leaned against the counter. "And the photos?" "Family albums," Nora said, pointing to the pile of boxes she'd received that morning. "They sent my childhood back to me. Neat, labeled, and weaponized with nostalgia." Marcus smiled softly. "Guilt disguised as sentiment." Nora chuckled. "Exactly." Her phone buzzed again, Eli this time. "Dad's blood pressure's been high. We're all worried. It'd mean a lot if you came to the wedding." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Health crisis this week." "Last week it was Mom's migraines," Nora replied, her tone dry. "They're getting creative." He chuckled. "How are you really holding up?" She traced the rim of her coffee cup. "Strangely calm. Like watching a movie I've already seen too many times." "That's not cold," Marcus said. "That's clarity." "I don't want to hate them," Nora admitted quietly. "Boundaries aren't about hate," Marcus replied. "They're about health." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Forgiveness without reopening the door." He nodded. "Exactly. You can love someone without giving them the same access to your peace." Something shifted inside her then, a soft release of tension she hadn't noticed she was holding. "I guess I've been confusing forgiveness with surrender," she whispered. "That's the trap," Marcus said gently. "And you just stepped out of it." That evening, Nora sat at her desk, the city lights glowing beyond her window. She opened a blank email addressed to her family. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard before she began typing. "I'll attend Eli's wedding under clear terms. No business discussions, no financial requests, and limited time at the event. I love you all, but I need peace as much as you do." She reread it twice before clicking send. Instead of guilt, she felt calm. Not escape, resolution. When Marcus called later, she simply said, I finally set my terms. His voice warmed through the phone. That's strength, Nora. Quiet, grown-up strength on the wedding day. The brown palace ballroom glimmered with chandeliers and laughter. Nora stood near the entrance, champagne glass in hand, her emerald dress catching the light. Marcus appeared beside her, looking effortlessly elegant. You okay? He murmured. Better than I expected, she said, scanning the crowd. Eli approached with Jessica, beaming. You made it. I did, Nora said, smiling politely. Congratulations to you both. Jessica squeezed her hand. Your gift was so thoughtful. Thank you. You're welcome, Nora said softly. It came from a place of peace. Eli hesitated, scratching the back of his neck. Listen, about the racing team. Nora shook her head gently. Not today, Eli. Today's about you and Jessica. He looked embarrassed, glancing at Marcus, who smiled politely. So, Eli said, clearing his throat. How did you two meet? Marcus grinned. Over birthday candles. Jessica laughed, the tension easing. That's sweet. After they walked away, Marcus whispered. That went better than expected. Nora nodded. I think I'm finally learning how to choose peace over reaction. A few minutes later, her mother appeared beside her, elegant in pale blue chiffon. Darling, could I steal you for a moment? Nora exchanged a glance with Marcus. I'll be right back. Her mother led her to a quiet corner near the dessert table, the scent of vanilla and champagne heavy in the air. You look lovely, her mother began, then sighed. But your email. It felt cold, dear. Setting conditions for family events. Boundaries, Nora corrected softly. Not conditions. Her mother frowned. We're family. Support shouldn't come with terms. Then it should flow both ways, Nora said calmly. Her mother's eyes glistened. Your father and I won't be around forever. I know, Nora said gently. And when you truly need me, I'll be there. But these guilt trips aren't love. Her mother's lips trembled. You've changed. I have, Nora said, smiling faintly. For the better. She checked her watch. It had been almost 3 hours. Her self-imposed limit. Marcus and I should go, she said softly. For the first time, her mother didn't argue. She only nodded. As Nora walked back toward the ballroom, she caught Eli's gaze. He raised his glass slightly, half apology, half respect. As the ballroom doors closed behind her, Nora inhaled deeply, the night air cool against her skin. Marcus offered her his arm. Ready, she smiled. More than ever. They walked out together, the sound of music fading behind them. For the first time, Nora didn't feel like she was leaving something unfinished. She was simply moving forward. In the car, Marcus glanced over. You handled that beautifully. 3 hours, no tears, no guilt, she said with a quiet laugh. That's progress. He reached over, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. That's healing. A year later, the birthday candles flickered again, but this time in her own kitchen. The warm light danced across marble counters and smiling faces. Marcus stood beside her, pouring wine. Rachel clinked her glass. To choosing your family and your peace, she toasted. Laughter filled the room. Nora looked around at the small circle of people who truly mattered. Marcus, Rachel, Diane, and 2 ments from her foundation. 5 people. That was all. But every single one of them wanted to be there. No empty chairs. No forced smiles. No waiting for texts that would never come. Make a wish, Marcus whispered, his voice soft near her ear. Nora closed her eyes. But for once, she didn't know what to wish for. Her business thrived, her book with Marcus had just hit bestseller lists, and most importantly, her heart felt light. When she blew out the candles, the smoke curled upward like a whisper of gratitude. Same restaurant as 4 years ago, Rachel said, cutting the cake. But a completely different energy. Nora smiled. Different company makes all the difference. Marcus chuckled. And fewer empty chairs. Later, after the laughter and music faded, Nora slipped into her study. Her leather-bound journal waited in the drawer, a quiet witness to her journey. She flipped to a fresh page and wrote, "Love doesn't require losing yourself. Boundaries aren't walls, they're gates you control." Her handwriting looked steady, confident. In the next room, she could hear her friends still chatting, their laughter drifting softly through the door. She smiled, realizing that peace didn't come from being alone. It came from being with the right people. Her relationship with her family had settled into something manageable. They met for coffee on holidays, exchanged polite messages, and avoided business discussions entirely. Eli and Jessica now ran a small boutique store. Her parents sometimes asked about Eden Essence, but only out of curiosity, not entitlement. It wasn't perfect, but it was balanced. She no longer waited for apologies or approval. She didn't need them. Peace had replaced longing. Boundaries had replaced bitterness. And love, real quiet love, had replaced the constant ache for validation. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. When she opened it, a young woman stood there clutching a notebook. "Hi, Ms. Collins. I'm Jessica, one of the entrepreneurs your foundation mentors. I'm so sorry to drop by unannounced." Nora smiled warmly. "Please come in. You're not interrupting." Jessica hesitated. "I was offered a partnership with my father's business, but I want to start something of my own. I don't know how to tell him." Nora gestured for her to sit. "Ah," she said knowingly. "The family obligation trap." Jessica sighed, twisting her hands. "He's done so much for me. I feel like saying no would be ungrateful." "Obligation and love aren't the same," Nora said softly, pouring her a cup of coffee. "One drains you. The other fills you." Jessica's eyes welled up. "I don't want to disappoint him." "You can respect someone without surrendering yourself," Nora said. "The world needs what you dream of, not what someone else planned for you." Jessica nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "That's why I admire you," she whispered. "You built your life your way." After Jessica left, Nora sat by the window, watching the city lights blur into the night sky. She felt a deep sense of purpose, not the ambition that once drove her, but a calm certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Marcus entered quietly, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. "You're mentoring another one already." Nora smiled. She reminded me of myself at 25, afraid to disappoint everyone but herself. He kissed the top of her head. "And now, Nora said, "I disappoint whoever I need to in order to stay whole." In the months that followed, the Eden Foundation flourished. Nora's talk show appearances about emotional boundaries went viral. Her quote, "Forgiveness doesn't mean access," spread across social media. Letters poured in from women around the world thanking her for helping them reclaim their voices. She kept one framed above her desk. "You made me realize I'm not broken for walking away." Each message reminded her that her story had become more than survival. It was a roadmap for others. Pain had become purpose. Loneliness had become light. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the city, Marcus lit a single candle on a leftover slice of cake. "Do you ever wish they'd shown up that night?" he asked quietly. Nora looked out at the skyline, where streetlights blinked like stars. "No," she said finally. "If they had, I might never have met you, or learned what real love feels like." He smiled. "Then here's to that lonely birthday. It changed everything." They blew out the candle together. The flame vanished, but the warmth lingered. That night Nora and Marcus sat on the balcony as twilight wrapped around the city. The hum of traffic below sounded distant, like a memory fading into calm. "You ever think about how far you've come?" Marcus asked, setting down his glass. Nora smiled faintly. "Sometimes I forget. It feels like I've lived two lives, the woman who begged to be seen, and the woman who stopped asking." Marcus studied her face. "And which one are you now?" She met his gaze. "The one who sees herself." Weeks turned into months, and Nora's days filled with mentorship sessions, interviews, and quiet evenings at home. The walls of her study now held photographs, Not of her family, but of the young women she'd helped through the Eden Foundation. Each photo carried a handwritten note beneath it. "Thank you for believing in me." When journalists asked about her success, Nora no longer spoke about money or expansion. "I measure success in peace," she said once on air, "and in how many people I've helped build theirs." The clip went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. One morning, a handwritten letter arrived in her mailbox. The neat cursive startled her. It was her mother's. "We've been watching your interviews. Your father and I are proud of you. We didn't understand before, but we do now." Beneath it, another line. "We'd like to see you if you're open to it." Nora stared at the paper for a long time. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She simply smiled and whispered, "Finally." That weekend she agreed to meet them for coffee. Neutral ground, small steps, open heart. When she entered the cafe, her mother stood immediately, eyes shining with nerves. Her father, older and quieter now, gave a hesitant smile. "You look beautiful," her mother said softly. "Thank you," Nora replied. There were no speeches, no tears, just conversation. Simple, fragile, human. Her father cleared his throat. "We didn't realize how much we asked of you." "You don't need to apologize," Nora said gently. "I've already forgiven you. I just needed space to remember who I am." Her mother reached across the table, her hand trembling. "We'd like to earn your trust back." Nora nodded. "Then start by respecting my peace." Afterward, walking back through the crisp air, Nora felt lighter. Not because everything was fixed, but because it no longer needed to be. When she returned home, Marcus greeted her with a quiet smile. "How did it go?" "Better than I expected," she said. "No promises, no guilt. Just presence." He poured her tea instead of wine. "That's the best kind of progress. Uncomplicated." She leaned against his shoulder, the scent of chamomile rising between them. "For years," she whispered, "I thought love meant giving everything. Now I know it just means giving honestly." Months later, Nora spoke at a global women's summit in Nairobi. The auditorium overflowed with dreamers, young founders, single mothers, and daughters who had carried families on their backs. "My story," she said from the stage, "isn't about rejection. It's about redefinition. Family can be blood, but it can also be choice. Choose people who don't make you question your worth." Applause thundered through the hall, and Nora's eyes misted. In the front row, Marcus smiled proudly. She caught his gaze and mouthed, "We did it." That night, in her hotel suite, Nora stood by the window overlooking the city lights of Nairobi. She opened her journal and wrote, "Freedom begins the moment you stop needing permission to be yourself." The words felt final. Not an ending, but a grounding. She closed the book, exhaled, and smiled at her reflection in the glass. For the first time in her life, she didn't see the girl who had waited for her family to arrive. She saw the woman who had built something they would one day respect, because she respected herself first. Back home in Colorado, Nora resumed her rhythm. Mentoring, writing, laughing, living. On her desk sat a single framed photo of that first birthday cake at Ellison's. 5 candles glowing for no one but her. Beside it, a new photo. Marcus standing beside her, holding the first printed copy of their co-authored book, The Art of Boundaries. It wasn't about revenge or regret. It was about transformation. The woman who once ate cake alone now built tables big enough for others to sit and heal beside her. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Marcus asked softly, "If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?" Nora smiled, eyes on the horizon. "I'd tell her that being overlooked isn't the same as being unworthy. And that sometimes, the family you build from kindness means more than the one you're born into." Marcus reached for her hand. "You've turned pain into legacy." Nora squeezed his fingers gently. "And loneliness into light." The candles flickered once more that year. Her 5th birthday since the night her family didn't come. This time, her kitchen was filled with laughter, warmth, and music. Marcus placed the final slice of cake before her and said, "Your wish, Nora." She looked around, at the friends she'd chosen, the love she'd nurtured, the peace she'd built, and whispered, "I already have it." As the candles went out, the room filled with applause and joy. And somewhere in the glow, the woman who had once waited alone finally celebrated, surrounded by love, by purpose, by freedom.